All right. All right. Good morning, team. To all of those who are on, thanks for making the live call. To those of you who couldn't be on, hopefully you can catch this full recording. So today we are going to be talking about the power of branding and the power of you. And I am super duper, I think most of you guys know this by now. I'm super duper passionate about this topic today. And I really feel like it's something that I've kind of touched on, but maybe haven't done a full training on. I really think that the biggest blessing of this business is the fact that we are our own CEO. And while we have amazing products and amazing programs, people want you. And at the end of the day, they can go to teambeachbody.com and they can order the products and they can order the programs. But the thing that is going to set you apart as a coach is you. And so we're going to talk today a little bit about the power of you and the power of branding in your business. So like I mentioned, I really believe that this has been my key to success. I really, truly do. Patrice and I had a great conversation last week when we were together of talking just about branding. And looking back over the past 4 years, that's one thing that I feel like I've been very consistent in is my branding, my messaging, what my feed looks like. I mean, these things are all important. It's your storefront. It's just like if you stop by a store over at the mall, let's say if you guys have Altered State, I don't know if everyone has that, but there's a store here called Altered State. They have a very specific look to their store. It's very bright and colorful and kind of rustic, and they have a lot of Christian books around with the clothing, and it's that's their brand. If I walked in there and I saw a whole section of like just really weird, like, I don't know, like dark colors and books that were about something satanic, I don't know, I would literally be like, that's super confusing. Like, why do they have that? That's not the kind of store that they are. Or even if they just had a whole section that was like lingerie, I don't know, it wouldn't make sense to their brand and their store. And so you've got to start thinking about your Instagram feed, your blog, whatever it is that you're doing as your storefront. And I think sometimes we get really caught up in thinking, well, this is just a way of talking to people, or this is just a way of connecting with people. And yes, like those things are important and those things that you should be doing through Instagram. But if you're using Captivate, I know a lot of you have already been trained on Captivate and how to grow followers and the importance of following other people. But if they come back to your Instagram and there's not a nice storefront, they're not going to want to press follow. And so you have to really start thinking about your branding, your consistency across your branding, and what you want for people to see when they come to your page. So, again, like I said, I really think this is a blessing of this business. We talk about curiosity marketing all the time, and curiosity marketing is super important. But I think branding is really the next step and really the next level beyond curiosity marketing. So let's kind of dive into things today. We're really going to be talking about the power of you, and then we're going to go into a little bit about just Instagram in general. I'll touch on some different things. Not going to super deep dive into Instagram and how you can connect with people necessarily today, but really just more about how you can be using Instagram in your business and what people need to see when they come to it. Again, there's a lot of different components to this, but this is the most important part, guys, is your branding. So if you're messaging people and you're, connecting with people and you're following people and you're getting people coming looking at your page, they're not going to press follow if they don't feel like there's a clear message. And so this is just super important. And I want to make sure that I kind of hone that in today. So the first thing I want to dive into here is you. Guys, you are colorful and you are special, and every single one of you is different. No matter if we all here are like, well, we all love Jesus and we're all doing business and this business, faith and fitness. Yes, we are. But guess what? At the end of the day, we're all super different. I actually pulled this from Allie because right now I'm just obsessed with all of her stuff. And she has an amazing feed. She has great content. She doesn't necessarily get a ton of engagement, but she has really great content. And I watched one of her trainings on kind of how she has branded herself. And I thought this color wheel was such a great idea. So what she does is, and what I'm going to have you guys do, this will be one of the action items at the end of the call today, is sitting down and really saying, what are the things that make me? So you can see here, this is her example of herself. So she's a wife, she's a mom of 3, she's a registered nurse, she's a certified holistic and health coach and nutritionist. She's a fitness instructor. She's a fitness fanatic. She is an aquatic force lover. She's a taco and donut obsessed. She loves fashion and makeup. She's obsessed with black and white. She's married to her middle school sweetheart. She's a French bulldog mama, and she has that on her slides. But you guys get the point. So these are things that are really specific to her. These are the things that make her colorful. These are the things that, you know, make people attracted to her. These are the things that make her her. And I think that's one thing that we kind of get away from sometimes. We start looking at other top coaches and we start really comparing ourselves. I know that a lot of you guys compare yourselves to me. Don't do it. Like, I have my own brand. You have your own brand. We are all different. And we can't compare ourselves to each other. We can't look at each other. Another big thing, guys, is that having 15,000 followers doesn't mean you have an awesome business. There are people who are top coaches that only have 2,000 followers. So these things don't mean anything. And I think we get really caught up in all of the numbers and the likes and all of that. But at the end of the day, the people you're connecting with, what you're doing with the people that are following you, and if you're putting in the work and having this type of feed, those are the things that are important. Just had to throw that out there as a side note. So there's things that make you specifically you. If you're comparing yourself to everyone else all the time, then you're going to stop being you and you're going to start looking like other people. And that's not what people want to see. They want to see you. And so one of the things that I really want you guys to do is just sit down, and I'm going to give you guys a blank version of this. So it's going to look like this. I'm going to post it in our Facebook page. And I'm going to ask everyone to print this off or do it on their computer, whatever works for you, and fill it out with all of the things that make you you. So you should have every single one of these colors filled in. And I want you to take a picture of it. I want you to post it. Show us what you came up with. The next step to that, once you've kind of filled this out and you figured out what are the things that make me me, the next step is to then kind of bunch them together. So obviously, you know, being a wife and a mom of 3, that can probably go hand in hand a little bit. So there's posts that are going to just be about motherhood, and there's posts that might just be about you as a wife, but a lot of them are going to be about your family and kind of things that kind of come together. Or maybe the fact that she's a registered nurse and a holistic health coach, like she, you know, that those might be things that could come together. The fact that she's a fitness instructor and a fitness fanatic, like those are things that might come together and be able to kind of do posts based on those combined. So the next thing to do once you've kind of come up with all of these things is to say, okay, what are my 4 focuses going to be? So for her, she kind of combined wife and mom, because again, like that can really go hand in hand. And then she said, okay, I'm going to really focus on the fact that I'm a certified holistic health coach and nutritionist, because in the world of Beachbody, there's not a whole lot of those people out there. And so, yes, there's a lot of former registered nurses, or I guess current registered nurses who are coaches. Yes, there's a lot of fitness instructors. So what are the things that are specific to you that kind of make you different? And so that doesn't mean that she's never going to talk about, you know, being a registered nurse, or that she's never going to talk about how she teaches classes, or, you know, being taco and donut obsessed. Like that doesn't mean that she's going to talk about those, never going to talk about those things. That just means that these 4 things are the really important part of her brand. And so, you know, it sounds silly right down here. This one that says obsessed with white and black. So this is a really important part of her brand. If you go to her feed, you almost never see her wearing anything colorful. I mean, literally, I saw her on the trip, and every day I saw her, she was wearing black. She even had on black swimsuits every day that she was on the beach. So that is an important part of her brand. And she's not doing those things because of her brand. That's just what she loves. And so it's correlated over into her business. And her feed is got more of that black and white approach. And that's a really important part of her brand. If you're more of a person, think about the things that you're attracted to. If you're more the person who looks at someone's feed and says, oh, I love those colors, and it's darker and it's got kind of got more like natural tones, maybe that's the kind of photos you need to go for. If you're someone who's like me and you like more of the white photos, then maybe that's something you need to go for. but you need to figure out what you want your feed to look like. And that's something I'm going to dive into in just a second. But making sure that you have one filter that you are using on all of your photos. So you need to figure out, hey, what is the app that I'm going to use to edit my photos? So for me, I use Color Story, and I'll show you guys here. So I use Color Story. It's my favorite app for editing photos. It's a little complicated, but I just love it. So let's say I just chose a picture. So for me, so there's a little tab here that says filters. So I actually paid like $1.99 to unlock this one like filter package called Flashes of Delight. It's all whited out kind of photos. And there's like one filter on there that I use for every single photo. And that's really important because I want my feed to have a certain look to it. I want for people to come to my feed and see that all the colors are very similar. I want it to have a very just clean approach. That's important because that's branding. So choose one filter. It's distracting when someone comes to your feed and they see a million different colors all over your page. You want for them to really see like just a very clear picture of kind of almost like all your photos come together and create one beautiful photo. Again, remember your feed is your storefront. And so be specific about what you want that to look like. Do it and then stick to it. I have pretty much for the most part, I change things up from time to time just for my own fun. But if you go through my feed, I mean, there's been times when, you know, for a couple months, maybe 5 or 6 months, I did photos that had writing on them and they were muted out in the background. So if you go to my feed and you scroll way, way down, you'll see that one whole side, so it's the middle right now, but you'll see, and I don't know how well you guys can see this, but you'll see that those middle photos are all muted out and they all have the same exact font on them. They have the same color scheme and it's just very, very clear. And now I'm in a habit of, or in a consistency of 7 photos and then one white photo with black writing on it that is a certain font every single time. So that's another big thing for me. You guys will notice I use the same font for like everything. So on my trainings, hello, this one right here, Be Colorful, that's my font right there. It's called PlayScript. That is the font that I use on everything that I do. On my booklets that go out to my, challengers, on a lot of my posts, on my Insta stories, I use the same fonts. And that is another really important thing, is that you need to choose 2 fonts that you like. Honestly, I'm not really a fan of having writing on photos anymore on Instagram. I think it's distracting. I don't think people like it. I think you need to post those things on Insta stories. I think if it's going to be every blue moon, like I'm doing every 7th photo is just white with black writing, I think that if it makes sense for your theme, that's okay. But it doesn't need to be random fonts. It doesn't need to be this font today and another font tomorrow. You need to stick to 2 fonts that are just the fonts of your brand. So for me, again, like I said, PlayScript is the one that I always use. Don't go to the same one as me. Go choose something else. But, that's the font that I love because I love like that hand-scripted kind of font. You guys have probably noticed that for our team sweatshirts that we did. I did those kind of scripted letters. Like, I love that. And so that is me. That's my brand. So sticking to one filter and sticking to 2 fonts is super duper important because it just gives your feed that really clean look. Even with your blog, I'm kind of redoing my blog right now and my banner and stuff like that, and all the same fonts. So I use Canva to create pretty much everything. So all of my fonts come from there. Everything I do pretty much comes from there. I just go in there and I make my images and then I save them and then I send them to myself on my phone and then I can just pull them up and post them on my Instagram or on my Insta story. That's how I make those Insta stories where I'm talking about my next boot camp. I do all of that on Canva. It's basically, I like to tell people it's graphic design for dummies. It's really, really easy to use and it's an amazing tool. That's where I make my booklets for my challenge groups. All of those things. And it's great because then I have my one font that I use on there and that's what I use for everything. So just making sure that you stick to one filter and 2 fonts. All right, so this is the blank version, like I said, that I'm going to share with you guys in our team page, but just going through and deciding on what are the things that really make me. And don't sit down and just throw it together. Like, think through it. Like, what are the things that kind of make you special? And you may get to the point where you have 4 of them filled out and you're like, okay, what else? You know what I mean? Like, you may get to this point where you're kind of like, I don't know what else. Go to your spouse, go to your best friend. Say, hey, what makes me me? Maybe I'm really funny. Maybe I love DIY projects. Maybe I'm obsessed with Joanna Gaines. Maybe I hate the word obsessed, but yeah, I use it all the time. Maybe I love Joanna Gaines. Maybe I, love high school students. I don't know. Like, what are the things that make you you? What are specific to you? It wouldn't make sense for somebody who's like, hey, I don't care about design. I don't care about fashion. And yet you post about fashion all the time. Like, that wouldn't make sense, right? You need to do things that are natural to you, that are authentic to you. If you're sitting down to write a post and you're struggling to write something, then maybe you should ask yourself, is this something that really is me? Is this something I'm really passionate about? Or is it something I'm pushing myself to do because I think that's what I'm supposed to do? I'll be honest with you guys, most of the posts that I post, I sit down and write right there and then that morning. Not saying you should all do that. I don't plan my Instagram post. And I know that a lot of people do, but I just don't got time for that. Actually, I probably do. I just don't make it a priority. But, if it's really making you struggle to share, then, and at first, I'm not saying that it's going to be super easy in the beginning. Like, at first, it's going to take you some time. But I'm saying if you're a year into this business and you're struggling to come up with a post on Instagram, like, maybe you should rethink about, like, what is my brand? What makes me special? What do I want to talk about? I think that we tend to think that we all need to talk about fitness and we all need to talk about, like, 100% health and fitness and these fitness products and all these things. But that's not what's going to necessarily attract people, guys. If you haven't noticed, I'm not like this scientific person who's posting about how fitness makes you stronger and and water and all of these things. Do I think those things are great and important? Absolutely. But those things for me to post would literally be so hard for me. I was talking to a new coach the other day and she's like, I kind of want to make mine a little more scientific because I have a degree in, the body and understanding the body. And, I'm a personal trainer. And I'm like, girl, do it. That is you. That's what you're passionate about. Like, she was telling me that all the people she follows are people who really dive into the scientific side. She's like, I follow you really from more the face side. I'm like, girl, that's fine. Like, I'm totally cool with the place that God's given me in my business and on Instagram, on the gram. But if she wants to make hers more scientific, that's cool. I actually think that's amazing because that's special. And I don't really think a ton of Beachbody coaches are doing things like that because most of them don't have the, knowledge to be able to share things like that. So do what makes you you. If she can sit down and write a post out in 5 minutes about something that, has to do with the body and water, I don't know, I'm totally making something up here. But for me, that would literally take like an hour. Like, let me do some research, let me learn. Like, that's just not my groove. And so people know that when they come into my boot camp, that's what my boot camps are based around. My boot camps are not like, come get chiseled abs because I don't even have chiseled abs. You know what I mean? Like, my boot camps are like, be brave boot camp, like very aspirational, very like faith heavy. But that's what makes me me. And guess what? The people who are jumping my boot camps, number one, they know what they're going to be getting. And so they find it valuable. They don't leave a boot camp disappointed because they thought they were going to get something else because I can't deliver something that I'm actually not really that passionate about. And secondly, it's attracting the people that I want to attract. Like, one of the most special parts of this business, guys, is finding your tribe. Like, I've talked to a few of you guys and you're like, I'm just in a really hard place where, like, I don't even really like my challengers. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know if I really like working with them. They're kind of negative. They're kind of like not that fun to work with. I don't even really want to ask them to be a coach because they're just really kind of annoying, and maybe I'm really being a little bit like, over the top there. But if you're asking, if those are things that you're seeing in your business, then you need to ask yourself, maybe I'm just not doing the right things. Maybe my branding isn't really true to who I am. Maybe what I'm saying doesn't make sense to that consumer. Guys, I could never talk to farmers' wives. I mean, I love Erin, and she was attracted to me for some reason, but she was attracted to me because of my face side of things. Like, I can't sit here and talk about working out on a farm or I don't know, whatever. I live in a suburban neighborhood. Like, people would be like, what do you know about, like, you know, green tractors? Like that, I mean, that wouldn't make sense for my brand, right? And so you've got to really think about what are the things that make you special. I know that I'm like hitting a dead horse here, but it's just super duper important that you figure out what are those things, and then figure out the 4 things you really want to focus on. Use those other things in your Insta stories and other things that you're putting out there. All right, so that is kind of wraps up branding. Let's talk a little bit about just making sure that I covered off on everything here. So I'm looking through my notes. Let's talk about your Instagram and really kind of like the direction I believe things are moving in. You know, we've really gone from a post 2 to 3 times a day on Instagram approach to really saying, hey, post 1 quality post. So that's one thing I really, really want to focus on today is quality over quantity, guys. Like, yes, you should be consistent. Yes, you should be posting once a day. But here's the deal. If you ain't got nothing to say and it's just going to be a thrown up post and your life is crazy that day and you didn't plan, don't just put something up to put something up. Like, just be okay with not posting that day and jump back on the train the next day. Or guess what? Reuse your content. Guys, I reuse content all the time. Like, I was telling Erin the other day, I was like, she was working on her challenge group stuff. I'm like, girl, number 1, you got to quit writing new content for every challenge group. Number 2, reuse your content. Pull Instagram post that you posted. If it was a devotional and it was from 6 months ago, no one is going to remember that. Guess what, guys? Little secret. The devotional I posted this morning, let's see real quick. I just posted it on my Instagram stories 29 minutes ago. So 100 likes so far. I posted it in November. It's the same post. So reuse your content. I put a whole lot. It doesn't mean, one thing that Michelle said to me a long time ago, and it really was like, okay, I needed to hear that, is that God's word is never void. So if it makes you feel ooey or icky and you feel like whatever you post on Instagram has to be God given to you that morning, like, God's word is never void. And at some point in time, God gave that to you and you wrote that, and it's still going to be a blessing to someone else today. Maybe God wants you to post that because there's someone else who needs to hear it. Whether it's about a challenge group, whether it's about something you're struggling with, maybe it's something that's going to make people laugh. Like, be okay with reusing content. People are not going to remember. They're not. And they may remember if you post the same picture 20 times, but they're not going to remember the content in the post. They're not going to remember the content in that post. Like, they're not going to remember what the caption said. So reuse content, do what you got to do. You know, there's a lot of weeks when I pull devotionals from my Instagram stories or Instagram from months ago, and I use them as devotionals in my challenge groups. So if I'm like putting my posts together and I'm like, hey, I really need something to post, I'll go back and I'll pull something, because people are not going to remember. And again, God's word is never void. Like, that was a really good post, and I shouldn't just leave it there and like hope that somebody's going to stumble back through it, right? Like, so don't be afraid to reuse content. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing actually, because I just realized that what I'm talking about now has nothing to do with that color wheel. All right, so so that's a big thing. So we kind of talked about this, but do things that fit you. Be aspirational, but be authentic. I think that a lot of times we focus for a really long time about making sure that every single post brings value. I want to change that thought and that word and that verbiage to make it sure every post has a point, okay? So instead of feeling like you got to drop a bunch of truth bombs on people and a whole bunch of knowledge, like, some things are just going to be posts that are really for you to kind of connect with your follower and your tribe. So, you know, Patrice is a great example. She talks about being a crunchy mom. I love that. I'm not a crunchy mom, but I know that when crunchy moms see her post, they're like, oh, she's my girl. You know what I'm saying? Like, so they relate to that. And that's important, right? Like, that's important that they see those posts, they can relate to that, because that makes them connected to her. And so when she does a call to action in her Instagram stories or whatever, they feel like they know Patrice. Your goal should be that when you get on the phone with your Getting Started Right call with your challenger, that they're legit like, I feel like I know you. Like that's how they should feel, because guess what? They jumped in your challenge group. They want to be a part of what you're doing, not because of the products that you're selling, but because of you. How many of you, and actually you don't have to necessarily raise your hand, but I'm guessing a lot of you joined as a coach, not because you, or joined this team specifically, not because you were like, Caroline knows everything about Beachbody, not because, you know, Patrice knows everything about Beachbody or whoever your upline is, but because you wanted them as your mentor. That's what I did with Michelle. I didn't even know she was a Beachbody coach, and I just signed up right then and there on that phone call with her that day because I was like, I love her and I want her. How could I have gotten to that point if I didn't know her, if I didn't feel like that I seen her live on Instagram and Facebook and that she had shared with me? Like, if she wasn't sharing those things and it was just all about fitness or knowledge or truth bombs, like, I wouldn't know her, but I knew her struggles, and I knew her heart. I knew where she was and her season of life, and it allowed me to picture myself in her shoes. And so share about how you're a hot mess and how you're overcoming. Like, don't just be negative, right? Like, oh, I'm a hot mess all the time. Share about how you're overcoming those things at the same time. You know, hey, I just did this super hard workout and literally I was dying, but guess what? I did it and I pressed play and it's over. And this is the progress that I'm seeing. Use it as an accountability for yourself. Like, those things that you post and you put out there into the world like that are inspiring to people. Like, I literally watch a lot of y'all's Insta stories and I'm like, girls getting it. I need to go to the gym, out to the garage and get it. Like, and I'm a coach. So think about how someone feels who is, you know, they're not working out, or they just started a postpartum journey or whatever. When they see that post from you of you saying, hey, look, I know it's hard and I've been there and it's scary, but know that you can do this. And here's my transformation from the past year. And this can be you too. If I'm in my postpartum journey and I'm sitting on my couch and I see that, I'm like, man, that girl gets me. And that's where I want to be. And I want her to mentor me because she clearly did something right. And so think about how you can share about how you're overcoming. Don't just throw content up there. I see so many coaches do this. I'm constantly like, why would you do that as an Instagram post? If you feel like there is no point to your post, like, is there any tie back? Is there any like real true value or call to action or anything like that? Ask yourself that. Is it just white noise? Is it just something to put on my Instagram feed? If it's just white noise and it's just something that you're like, hey, I kind of just want to put this out there, but I don't want it on my storefront, then put it in your Instagram stories. Like, Instagram stories is for all that stuff. I had a conversation even with Michelle the other day where she's like, hey, I really think call to action should be happening in your Instagram stories. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but that's what I've been doing. I actually did a post the other day about my coach sneak peek in my Instagram feed, and it got horrible engagement. And ever since then, for the past like 2 or 3 days after that, I got horrible engagement on all of my posts. And so that just says to me that doesn't belong in my storefront. Like, keep that stuff on Instagram stories. And, you know, I'm cool with that because people don't want to see all these spammy call to actions on their Instagram posts. They want to see that stuff in their Instagram feed. And so use call to actions, do that stuff there. Canva has amazing resources for you to create stuff that says, hey, join my next, you know, coach sneak peek. And, you know, Patrice does a great job at this. I love her Instagram stories of how she says, hey, here's little nuggets of things that about coaching. I'm going to drop little nuggets here about how coaching has blessed my family. And now if you want to join my coach sneak peek, she doesn't, you know, don't put that stuff on your storefront. It's like, when you're posting something on your storefront, you need to really say, okay, is this storefront worthy? Like, does this belong on my storefront? Does this add to my brand and my feed? Does this have a point? Does this have a tie back? A great example that I heard from a girl on a call the other day was she was like, it was her birthday and she wanted to post a transformation picture. And so she was like, okay, well, I don't want to just throw this transformation picture up there. Like, it's got to have a tie back to like what's happening in my life and my brand and all that. And so it wasn't actually a transformation picture. It was like a progress picture because she was in the middle of the 80-day obsession when she did this. And so she posted it and she said something like, you know, what do you give yourself for your birthday? You give yourself like a size down in your jeans or something like that. Like, it was super cute, super funny because she's a really funny person. And it was a way for her to share her progress photo, but to tie it back to the fact that it was her birthday. And so think about like, okay, this just happened in my life. How does this tie back to my brand and the people I'm trying to talk to? You guys know that I talk a whole lot about like body positivity and how God made them fearfully and wonderfully made, and how like all of these things. And that's a really important part of my brand. And that's a really important part of like the message I want to be telling women, is that they're strong and they're beautiful and God made them that way. And they're not working out to be a size 2. They're working out to like be stronger, be a good discipline, or create discipline, be a good steward of their bodies, right? And so if I go and post something about like, you know, how I'm doing this 3-day cleanse and I want to drop 10 pounds, people be like, okay, that's kind of confusing because I thought you said that it's a journey and, you know, all these things. It wouldn't really make sense for my brand. So just really make sure that what you're putting out there in your storefront really makes sense for your brand, and is the message clear. You know, I see people post things all the time. Well, they'll say something negative about something, and then they'll turn around and say, but I want to work with you guys. Like, okay, let's just use an example. If I posted on my Instagram and I was like, you know, I just really am not a dog person. Like, I don't even really like dogs. And then later that day I post like, hey, I'm looking for dog lovers who want to join my team. That's a really like exaggerated example, but like that doesn't make sense. People be like, okay, you're kind of fake, girl, because you just said you don't like dogs. Like, so be clear with, if you're going to talk negatively about something, and maybe in your mind it's not even negative, but rethink what you're putting out there into the world. Yeah, you see the babies? Again, so don't throw content up there. Think about if this is storefront, like, is it deserve my storefront? Again, what is the point of the post? Like, why am I putting this out there? Why is this important? And then think about how you can tie it back to what you do. I guess really the last big thing is that you don't want to post too much on your Instagram stories. So if you're using your Instagram stories, that's where you're doing your call to actions. That's where you're kind of talking to people. Just remember, I know there's a few coaches who are top coaches. I'm not going to lie. I follow them. I mean, guys, I'm going to be real. Even Carl Deichler, like, he's great. But I go to his Instagram stories and I just click through them because I'm like, okay, dude, like, because I see at the top that it's just him talking to the camera, like not even just like 2 or 3 videos, but like 8 videos, you know, like you see the line and it's just like, okay, this like keeps going, this keeps going. So just be aware of that. If you're, even the other day, I did a post, I think it was yesterday actually, I did a video about my next boot camp. So instead of just talking to the camera, I put at the bottom, like, you know, you can be a part of this and something, something, something. So think about that when you're talking to the camera and just putting videos out there. Like if someone's not listening to the video because maybe they're in class or they're in a work meeting, because I'll be honest, I look a lot of Instagram stories while I'm at work. You know, they can't hear what it says. Yes, Ashley, they can't hear what that says. They don't know what you're saying. So put words on there, because then it might be like, oh, it says swipe up if I'm interested in the Be Brave Boot Camp. So even if they don't hear anything I said, they at least get that call to action. Cool. I guess last thing that I really wanted to say, you know, one thing I see with a lot of corporations and a lot of companies and a lot of Beachbody coaches is that we drink the Beachbody juice. And people at my work do this too. Hang on, give me, baby, I'll get something in a second. People at my work do this too. So they are literally, they like eat, breathe, and sleep Red Bull. Like everything they post is a Red Bull event, and they wear Red Bull hats every day to work. And I'm like, you people are a little too obsessed. It actually is really annoying, and people outside of the brand make fun of them. We don't want people to do that about us as Beachbody coaches, guys. Like, I don't know about y'all, but I don't want to be every post that I post me wearing my TBB hat. You know what I'm saying? Like, or carrying my Beachbody backpack around everywhere I go. Don't be a Beachbody robot. Don't throw up Beachbody all the time. You know, ask your friends who are outside of Beachbody, like, hey, Whitney, you know, or whoever, will you audit my Instagram? Like, are there words that I'm using on here that are kind of like, I know what they mean, but do other people know what they mean? The girl, this training I listened to, she had a really good point. She said, you know, a lot of the people I'm working with are Christians, and small groups are really big in our church. And she said, I realized that I was posting about challenge groups a lot, but nobody knew what a challenge group was, because that's a term we use a lot in Beachbody. But does anybody actually know what that means? Like people who don't like aren't inside the bubble, right? And she said, what did you say, Patrice? I'm sorry, I saw something about stop the Beachbody backpack. She said my Beachbody backpack is my diaper bag. Hey, I mean, I'm just saying all the time, like if you're wearing the hat and the backpack at the same time, maybe we should re-talk about that, and the leggings and the tank Okay, so where was I going? Oh, she had a really great idea. This girl I was listening to, she said that a lot of people don't know what challenge group is. Like, do we actually explain that to people? Like, do they even know what that means? And so she actually started calling her challenge groups like a small group. So she said, hey, I'm doing a, let's just use mine as an example, a Be Brave accountability small group, or I don't know how she worded it. And she had a ton of traction because guess what? A lot of people she's talking to, much like all of us, are people in the church community, and they know what a small group is, right? Like small groups are really big in churches. And so thinking about things that you're using and words that you're using that are Beachbody words. I carry my backpack too, but no leggings and tank top. I carry my backpack too. I carried it last weekend. Okay, someone said when I worked at Lulu, that's how it was. I didn't realize until I left. Yes, it's so true. Like everybody just eat, breathes, and does the same things. Erin said, what do you think about story highlights? You see a lot of engagement with those. Story highlights, not really. I think that you should put them on there because why not? But I'll be honest, I don't keep mine super updated, but from time to time I will get a few messages of people being like, oh, I'm interested in being on your team, or, something like that. So even if it's just one person who decides to join my team because they saw something in my stories, it's kind of worth it because it takes 2 seconds to save them. And I made my little highlight photos that are on my Instagram. I made those on Canva. It was super easy. There's actually a website called noun.com, and you can go and type in any word, and it'll basically give you a graphic for that word. So it's always a black graphic. So like if you guys look at my feed, those highlights, and it's like, a cross and like 2 women giving themselves, like giving high fives and a coffee cup. All of those came from noun.com. And you can just screenshot them or you can download them and then upload them onto Canva to make your little icons. So it's pretty easy. So I think that's everything, guys. But yeah, like ask a friend to audit your Instagram. Say, hey, do you see words on here that you don't know what those mean? Like, does this make sense? Because a lot of times if we would just step outside of our bubble and ask other people who aren't in the bubble, they might be like, hey, Carol, I don't know what that means. What is your team? Like, I know that's one thing I talk about all the time. Like, join my team. And people are probably like, what's your team? Like, what does your team do? Is that your challenge group? Like how clear are we about things? So these are things just to be thinking about and to ask our friends to kind of help us mention it. What is the app you mentioned before, noun.com? Okay, so the 3 apps that I really love right now. So, okay, I guess 4. 1 out of 3. Color Story is awesome for editing your photos. That's what I use. So I'll put that over here. It's called Color Story for editing photos, and pick one filter, like I said. And then for Instagram stories, I really love, there's one called Hang Tight. I think Patrice I know you did a video last week when we were doing the workout with the trainers, and I think she did that video on Hang Tight, I think. No? Okay. There's also another one called Triller, I think, or something along those lines. Patrice is going to put it down here. But those are, so Hang Tight, and then this one she's about to post, really great for creating videos if you want words to like swipe in, and if you want it to be like really fast or kind of just cool looking, you can use that as well. I try to just post all my videos on my Insta stories, but yeah. Yeah, so Patricia said, I merged my videos with Video Merger and use Video Shop for speed, but I think there is one for both. Yeah, so that's helpful. Another great one, guys, is I think it's called Cut. It's where you can basically make a whole video. Amber Kuipers posted about this one day. I'm double checking that that's what it's called, Cut Story. You can like videotape a whole video. So if you're like, hey, join the Be Brave boot camp and da-da-da-da, you can go on there and it'll just cut it into like your little 60-second or 30-second clips for Insta stories. So it makes it super easy. So you don't have to go, like you're making a million different videos. Or if you're working out and you're like, hey, I don't really want to have to keep pressing, to record my workout. You can just do it on there, cut it up, and then just choose the ones that you want to put on your Insta stories. You can do them after the workout. Any other questions? Was this helpful, guys? I really hope it was. Hopefully it's not just like, I feel like I was like, I hope I can bring something new to the table. But hopefully, I think the branding piece is really huge. Good. And I think new coaches especially, like this should be really helpful for you guys. We will post this recording. Does anybody else have any questions? You can drop them in the chat box really quick before we hop off here. Yes. Okay. So quick reminder again about income surge. So I know I'm kicking off a push to Emerald today with some of my PS coaches. But Patrice and I are so excited about this, guys, because we've really been trying to brainstorm, like, what can we do to help some of you guys who really do have those big goals? And I mean, we have those big goals in our business as well. And so income surge is really going to be like truly about tough love and pushing you guys. And I think, I'll be honest, that's one thing I struggle with sometimes is tough love. But if you told me that you have a certain goal, like, we're going to get you there. And so make sure that you're on track to hit Success Club by Monday, that you're on track to hit Emerald by next Wednesday night, because obviously the new rankings go into effect on Thursday mornings. So you just need to be an active Emerald coach, which just means one coach under each leg. One of those could be your spouse. And then obviously hit Success Club this month. So, all right. No, you're fine, Elizabeth. And then one other thing too, I just want to pray for us. I know a lot of you guys have a lot going on. So if anybody else has another prayer request that they want to drop in the chat box before we pray and then wrap up for the day. Anybody else have anything? All right, let's go ahead and pray. Heavenly Father, God, I thank you for these amazing women, God. Thank you just for their stories and their authenticity, God, and just what you're doing in and through them, Lord. I pray that they would just know today that they are special and that they are just uniquely and fearfully made, God. And that is just so important to who they are and who they attract, God. And just, I pray that you would help them to be brave as they share their stories, God. I know it can be scary. I know that putting yourself out there is not always fun, but God, I also know it's an amazing blessing whenever we get to connect with other women and walls come down. And so, God, I pray that you would just use us in mighty ways, God. I pray that none of us would make this about us. Yes, like we should be us and we should be leading with that. But God, at the end of the day, this really is not about the Caroline show or, anyone else on here, God. This is about making much of you. And so I pray that we would not lose focus of that we wouldn't get so focused on making a lot of money or, helping a ton of people that it becomes about the numbers, Lord. Help it to truly be about making much of you. And I pray that those things would just be an overflow once we're focused on you and we're really making much of you. And God, I just pray that you would use this as an arrow to you and other women's lives, God. And I just pray over the women on this call. Cassie's got a big meeting today with her boss. And so, God, I just pray for favor over her, Lord. I pray that you would give her peace. And, Lord, that you would just prepare her boss even now, God, just to accept the ideas that they have and be on board and excited, Lord. And so I pray over that conversation. I pray for Ashley, God, as she just dropped her little girl off at daycare and she's having a rough time, Lord. I pray that you would just give her peace and help it to be a wonderful day and just to exceed our expectations, God, everything to go better. And so, Lord, we praise you. We love you. We thank you for this team. I thank you for the amazing work that they're doing. I pray consistency and favor over them, God, that you would bless their lives, God, bless their businesses, Lord. Show up. God, I pray that you would do more with their hour than they could with 10 hours, God, and that you would just multiply our results and multiply our efforts and multiply our results, God. We love you so much, and it's in your name I pray. Amen. All right, guys. I looked up and the screen was gone because I think Emmeline had swiped, and I was like, oh no, Satan cut our call off. All right, guys. So y'all have an amazing day, and we'll talk soon. Bye, everybody.